Welcome everybody to another episode of Just Landed. If you're unfamiliar with this series, we usually cover new devices which have just come out. So this one is the Poco X3 NFC. It's interesting that they have NFC in the name. It's not exactly the most new feature, but the device itself is a new phone. So this one has been released in September. It's available in the market now, and it's made by Xiaomi. Right? So it's an interesting looking package. The color combination is black and a kind of mustard yellow. Reminds me quite a bit of Realme. I'm not sure who copied whom, but Realme has their gray and mustard yellow combo. So it's a nice looking package. Let's open it up and see what's inside. Right? So there is some mention of specs here. The color that we're going to be looking at is a shadow gray unit. It's got 6 GB of RAM and 128 gigs of onboard storage. So that's nice. So here is the kit, and pretty hefty. Let's open that up and see what's inside. So there is a pin to eject the SIM tray, and then there is what looks like a case. We'll look at that in a bit. Okay, so there's some documentation here, user guide and a warranty card, nothing new. As for the case, it's got a large chunky case. This must be for the camera module. The bottom connectors, it's just a regular clear case. Okay, so getting to the phone. And what I do like is the specs and the information about the phone being here. That's great at a glance. You get a quick feel for it. Talks about the Snapdragon 732G processor, speed of 2.3 gigahertz. That's nice, very impressive. It's got a high refresh rate screen, so it's probably gonna be smooth to operate, right? So it's 120 megahertz and a size of 6.67 inch. The resolution is Full HD plus, so maybe it's a little bit more than HD, so that'll be interesting as well. As for the camera, it's a 64 megapixel AI quad camera, so that's interesting. And finally, of course, the battery is what they've mentioned, which is a 5160 milliamp battery. Okay, and there's a fast charger. Okay, that's impressive. So looking at the phone, it's quite nice. Has a nice design, right? There's this big camera bump at the back. I'm sure it's visible. So I'm sure if you place it on something, it's gonna have a little bit of a gradient, right? You can see here that it doesn't sit flat with the surface, right? So there's a little bit of elevation thanks to that bump. The bump is significant. And there's 4 cameras and a flash module here. The center one, I'm guessing, is the main 64 megapixel sensor. So let's go ahead and remove this. We'll just put this here if we ever need to come back to it. Getting back to the phone, this seemed to be a bit of a fingerprint magnet, so I can see some glue marks as is. Yep. It's heavy, it's got quite a bit of weight, so be prepared for that. It's a large device, as you can see in my hand. You can reach the power button easily. Volume rocker, not so easily if you keep the phone this low. Probably want to hold the phone like this if you want to get to the volume rocker and the power. So it's a large phone for sure. The front camera is a 20 megapixel camera, so that's pretty decent too. As for the design, it's nice. It has some effects as the light hits it. It has this center section with the Poco there. I can't say it's an amazing design, but it's okay. Feels fairly premium, so it's a nice phone. We're gonna fire that up in a bit. Let's look at the rest of the kit. Okay, so there's charger and charger cable. So this one is USB Type-C, which is nice, and this one is the fast charger. Time to power it on and see what happens. Okay, so the initial screen is the Android screen with the Poco logo. MIUI, of course, must be using the Mi user interface, which is what Xiaomi uses for their devices. This Poco phone, of course, is a Xiaomi device. Boot up seems to be fairly fast. It's MIUI 12. Okay. English, fair enough. Region already set to the Philippines, that's great. Let's try to connect to the Wi-Fi. Okay, it's connected to my D-Link router, so we can go ahead. There is some terms and conditions here. Okay, agree to everything and go. So it's checking for a SIM card. We can skip this step. Checking for updates. As you can see, the front camera is in screen, so it's kind of like a punch hole. It's good that they sent the device with some amount of charge, so it has about 54% of charge, so it's pretty decent, should last decently long. Nothing to copy from previous phone. The boot up seems fairly fast. It seems to be going through the stages quite fast. Okay, now that we have access to our Gmail account, gives you an option to add your phone number, opt into a bunch of stuff, but I'm gonna skip that for now. Terms of service, you gotta agree to that. Right now it's connecting to their cloud and pulling up all your account information, right? So backing up to the cloud, location services. So this is to get the assistant to understand how you talk, is what I figure from what it says here. Let's see. You can get some daily updates if you want, a weather update, news updates, etc. I don't want any of that stuff. Oh, here's the voice matching, which I mentioned earlier. Okay Google. Okay Google. Hey Google. Hey Google. And there you go. So it's basically trying to match your voice and understand how your voice works. So you can add a card, so it's like a wallet, and then use it for Google Pay. I'm not going to use my credit card here. You can add more email accounts, you can customize the font size, change your wallpaper, etc. So I'm just going to go with the basics. It says it's adding finishing touches. Hopefully after this, we're going to get to see our main screen. Let's see. This is talking about signing in with a Google account or a Mi account. So I'm guessing it's probably something to do with the device and the user interface. Right? So Xiaomi is probably taking your account information also. I'm gonna skip that. I don't want to create a Xiaomi cloud account at this point. Yeah, so I'm gonna skip that. So it's asking how we want to authenticate. So let's try the fingerprint. Okay, so this here is a fingerprint scanner as well. Let's try that. Yeah. So you got to program it a few times so that it understands your finger, right? You might want to do it a few different angles because it's likely that when you hit this in the future, you're not going to hit it exactly at the center. It might be at various different angles. So you're trying to program it to have a lot of information about your finger. Now, as you would see, I'm using my thumb primarily because with this holding style, you're probably going to use your thumb more than anything else. Unlike maybe if it was down here at the back, you would use an index finger, but up here, it's going to be your thumb, right? Now they're asking us to move my finger slightly, and it's done. Again, there's additional settings like your location, user experience program. I'm going to just set everything to whatever is default. It gives you some options for themes. Let's go with the classic. Setup is complete, finally. You're ready to go, okay. So now it's loading some apps. I wonder what that is. Maybe just the apps on the phone. Maybe it's because it's the first time we're setting up the phone. Seems to be taking a while. So for most part, this process has been fast, but surprises me that this stage is taking quite a bit of time. Yep. Keep the screen alive. Okay, and there you go. Finally, we have the screen coming up. Okay, so this is your home screen. There's some stuff still going on. As you can see, it says completing setup. It's installing some applications. It has weather up here. The system has already noticed that there are some devices which could use updates, right? So that's the system update tool, which is probably a Xiaomi tool, right? I'll come to that in a bit. We'll let these apps install. Now, something that I'm interested to see is the fluidity of the screen, being that this is a high refresh rate, right? It does feel a little smoother already, right? Gives the sense that the phone is super fast. Swipe right twice. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, so you could probably put hidden apps here. That's a nice feature with a password. You know, if you don't want some of your apps accessible from others, I guess that's a nice touch. Yep. That's pretty cool. So this is the main screen. This is your Google feed. You could probably customize it to look at other stuff. So I see that it's pulling up stuff from my YouTube. Those are channels that I look at YouTube. So here's the weather data, probably because I haven't put in a location yet. There you go, it's picked up my location and it has the weather and temp. Right, so now that's appearing properly. You have your time here. What else do we have here? So it looks like the brightness is auto sensing. It's connected to Wi-Fi, no SIM. Settings. So let's look at the settings. Always interesting to look at the settings. We'll look at the about phone. So here's some stuff about the phone. So this is nice. It says that 20 GB out of the 128 is used for the device. It has the device name. It has the UI information. Right? It has your Android version. So we are running Android version 10. Factory reset. You could look at your specs here. So 6 gigs of RAM, octa-core. How do we get a screenshot? Is it the same way that it's normally done? Okay, yeah. So you could take a scrolling screenshot. That's pretty cool. Let's hit that. Nice. So it grabbed the entire thing, and so I'm gonna save that. I want to get this as well. Useful information. I don't need to scroll for this one, so I'm just gonna keep that. So it has an option to send directly from the screenshot. That's nice. Now let's look at the gallery and see where those screenshots are appearing. Here are the two screenshots. So this one is the long one, right? It looks like you can beautify after, so that's nice, but I'm not gonna do that now. For one-handed use, the phone is a little on the large side, right? If I was using it this way, then I need to switch to this. Because the phone is so heavy, I don't feel the comfort in just doing that. It's difficult. I need the second hand to kind of come down to this. So I would say that's a downside of such a large phone, right? You hold it like this, it's great for the volume control and the power, but then you cannot reach the bottom of the screen. I need to do something like that, but then I can no longer reach the volume, right? So that is a deficiency, I guess, of such a long design. So that's the on-screen indicator for the volume. The screen looks nice. I do like the fluidity. It is noticeable that the screen is fluid. And let's take a quick look at how it performs in terms of browsing. Let's go to ESPN. So it's got 6 gigs of RAM. I don't expect it to get slow. So there's quite a few apps open here. Fluidity, yep, still decent. Installation is a good way to see the performance of the storage subsystem on the phone. Sometimes the storage subsystem is not so great, so it takes really long when you want to install something. So maybe let's test that out. For browsing, I often like using Edge. Let's install the Edge browser and see how that works. So it's asking me again about adding a card, which I don't need, and this is a free app, so that's annoying. Now, in terms of the download speed, that's based on your internet, so that doesn't matter, but the install speed, there you go. Now it says installing. You can probably see that. Let's see how long it takes. Not too bad at all. Yeah. So there is some pre-installed stuff. Let's say I don't want them. Let's try to uninstall them and see if that works. So I want to dump this app. Can I uninstall it? There you go. Okay, that's good. I can install. So it does clearly have some bloatware, right? So there's booking.com. What if you don't need that? So they haven't pre-installed some stuff. Some of it may be useful, some of it might not be. So this is an OpenOffice replacement for MS Office. But yeah, I don't seem to see the need to have all this pre-installed. I do appreciate phones which don't come with too much bloat installed. So this is for the Xiaomi community. That I understand it's a Xiaomi phone, but let's say I don't want that. It's good that I can dump that, right? So that's nice. Has some games installed, pre-installed. These are basic games, so no biggie. There is a Xiaomi browser. Let's see if we can uninstall that. No, you cannot. So this is probably a protected app, so you cannot uninstall it. So there are some apps like that, I would imagine. Yep. So maybe let's test both the screen and the audio on this. So let's go to YouTube. So there's our channel, right? If you haven't watched it, you should. We have reviewed recently this tripod. It's quite new. Just launched today. There, you could get it to fit the entire screen, but of course you're losing some bits of the video because the video is made for a standard 16:9 widescreen. This screen is quite a bit wider with these black bars, so yeah, you can fill the screen, but you're losing some of the stuff at the top and the bottom. And you can see the hole punch camera there. And that is the head for you to fix the DSLR, and of course the handle for you to move it around and do tilt and pan effects. In terms of the feet, that's how you extend it to get additional height. Hit pause now to review the specs. The audio seems okay. The video, on the other hand, is quite nice. I think that the video looks good. It has decent viewing angles. Right, the viewing angles are decent. It's not, I wouldn't say phenomenal, but it's pretty decent. Yeah. So when you go off screen, it does seem to lose the brightness, right? maybe an IPS LCD screen. We'll look at that later in the specs when we check on the phone a little bit more. When I have it directly facing my face, yeah, the sharpness is at its best. When you go off angle a little bit, yeah, it does seem to suffer a little bit. How are we doing? So we have quite a few apps open. So this speed, when you kind of go through stuff, it's amplified because of the smoother refresh rate. The faster screen refresh seems to make a difference for sure, right? So that's it in terms of our first impressions. It's a nice screen. The design and the colors are about okay. I've seen better. This is probably not the best looking phone. It is a massive phone, right? So that you gotta keep in mind. The fingerprint scanner is nice. It's a nice inclusion here. The ergonomics I'm not very convinced about, because for single-handed use you cannot get both your volume and power as well as the bottom of the screen very well. So that's a bit of a problem. Otherwise, decent device. So we will do a full detailed review, kind of put this through its paces, see how it performs, and probably post a detailed review on this device. Hope you're enjoying our content. Do consider subscribing if you like tech content like this, and tell your friends about us. See you in the next one.